All right, today we're going to break down this absolutely fascinating and super aggressive corporate strategy from a company called MicroStrategy. Seriously, this plan is so unique it's making huge waves in crypto and in traditional finance.
So it all boils down to this one big question. How in the world is one company borrowing just massive amounts of money and then turning around and generating returns that are absolutely crushing the market? I mean, it sounds a little too good to be true, right? Well, let's pull back the curtain and see exactly how they're pulling this off.
And look, when I say crushing the market, I am not kidding. Check this out. So far this year, MicroStrategy stock, ticker MSTR, has outperformed a major Bitcoin ETF by 5 times. We're not talking about a small lead here. This is a massive gap. It really tells you, okay, there's something special going on here that we need to understand.
So what's the secret sauce? Well, the engine driving all of this actually has a name. It's called Michael Saylor's Flywheel. And you should really think of it like this powerful, carefully built financial machine. It's designed to do just one thing, over and over, with just, incredible efficiency.
Okay, so let's pop the hood, right? Let's see how this thing actually works. We're going to break the whole process down step by step, and I think once you see all the pieces, the whole thing becomes surprisingly simple.
So this flywheel basically has 3 main steps. Step 1, they raise a ton of capital. And what's really fascinating here is where they're getting this money. We're talking about the big players like JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley. They're investing in this special MicroStrategy instrument because it pays out an 11% yield. That's a really attractive return, right? And it gives them a way to get exposure to crypto with a pretty well-defined upside. Okay, step 2 is just brutally simple. Acquire Bitcoin. That's it. All that cash they raised from Wall Street, it goes to one thing and one thing only, buying more Bitcoin. There's no fancy hedging or complex financial engineering here, just straight up buying. And that leads us to the final step, grow value. The whole point of this process is to just constantly increase the company's net asset value, its NAV. So the cycle is super clear, right? Raise money, buy Bitcoin, grow the company's value, and then, you guessed it, do it all over again.
And this right here, this is the whole goal of the machine. The target they're shooting for is a 19% annual increase in their NAV. So what does that number mean? Well, that's their potential profit. It's the spread between how much they expect Bitcoin to grow and how much it costs them to borrow the money in the first place. That 19%, that's the fuel that keeps this entire flywheel spinning faster and faster.
Okay, so now we know how the machine works. Let's dig into why it works. Because this whole strategy, it's actually built on a really classic financial idea. It's basically a modern kind of supercharged version of what's known as a carry trade. So what's a carry trade? It's textbook finance, really. All you're doing is borrowing money at a low interest rate and then investing it in something that you think will give you a higher return. Simple as that. It's really just a bet that the thing you buy is going to grow faster than the interest you have to pay on the loan.
And this is the math behind MicroStrategy's big bet. On one side, you've got their cost to borrow money, which is about 11%. On the other side, you have what they're targeting for Bitcoin's growth rate. That's a 30% compound annual growth rate. So the whole thing hinges on this. As long as Bitcoin goes up by more than 11% a year over the long haul, this strategy makes money.
This quote from our source material just nails it perfectly. The entire thesis for MSTR is that they are betting on the CAGR of Bitcoin being higher than their cost of capital. It's really that simple. I mean, that's it. The whole thing really does boil down to that one single belief.
But here's the thing. When you have a strategy that's this simple and this powerful, it's usually centered on a single point of failure. It's kind of an all-or-nothing approach, which brings us to the ultimate bet. And, of course, the huge risks and rewards that come along for the ride.
And this right here, this is the core risk. According to the source material, MicroStrategy has done everything they can to protect their business model. They've defended against everything they can actually control. But there's one giant variable they just can't do anything about: the future price of Bitcoin. At the end of the day, whether this company succeeds or fails is completely 100% tied to how Bitcoin performs.
So, okay. If the risk is that big, the potential reward has got to be astronomical to even justify it, right? So what is the bull case here? What's the potential upside that makes a gamble this massive seem like a smart move?
Well, to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, check this out. Some analysts over at Bitwise have a theory. They say that if just 5%, only 5%, of the money that's currently parked in gold were to shift over into Bitcoin, well, that move alone could send the price of Bitcoin soaring past $242,000. That is the kind of massive paradigm-shifting event that this whole strategy is banking on. And all of this leaves us with one last, really provocative question. Is this whole flywheel thing a brilliant financial machine, perfectly built for a new digital age? Or is it just the single biggest, most all-in bet in the history of the corporate world? You know, the funny thing is, the truth might be that it's both. And I guess only time will tell how this story ends.